On behalf of all assembled here today, I should now like to invite Dr. Donald Lang to address Convocation.
Well, good morning. A warm welcome to Chancellor Jack Cohen, President Dr. Chakma, Ivy Dean Sharon Hodgson, former Acting Dean Mark Vanderbosch. Thank you for the intro. And what appears to be a sea of supportive friends and family. And of course, the real stars here today, the 2019 Ivy School business graduates. It's quite humbling to receive this honorary degree and speak with you today. Well, it's been more than a few years, but I vividly remember sitting in your chair when I graduated from Ivy. Like today, there was a requisite boring speaker. But it was an exciting day of transition. What seemed like an eternity in school, I was finally set to start my full-time job and go about changing my corner of the world. When I thought about what to focus on today, the topic that stood out for me the most was just that, change. So by giving you a brief tour through my business career, I hope to leave you with some ideas and concepts to help you navigate through change that will certainly be part of your professional lives. Business author Alan Deutschman popularized the saying, change or die, which sounds like something Cersei Lannister would say in Game of Thrones. But change or lose market share just doesn't have the same ring to it. To be honest, from my years in business, I can attest that surviving in business is very much about anticipating and affecting change. Charles Darwin discovered years ago that wasn't necessarily the strongest or the fastest to survive, as those that could adapt to change. Throughout your years here at Ivy, I'm sure you've pored over many case studies of businesses that incorrectly read the changing landscape and were left in the dust, and others that's transformed and thrived. I know the education I received here has served me well. A study in the journal American Medical Association followed 7,500 heart attack survivors who were informed they needed to stop smoking, eat better, and get more exercise to prevent a subsequent attack. Yet the research found that only 4% of participants improved their habits in all crucial areas. Humans resist change, even when it's essential to survival. It wouldn't surprise me to discover that percentages were similar in business. If you walk away with anything today, it's this: you need to embrace change and be in that 4%. When I graduated, I took a job as a financial analyst at Nabisco. It wasn't my dream job, but it was a start. And I was able to utilize the skills I gained here at Ivy. But I soon discovered that I liked the hands-on dimension of operations. 2 years later, I took a purchasing job at CCL Industries. It was at best a lateral move, but offered far more opportunities. As a result, I've now been there for 37 years. When I began, CCL only had a handful of Canadian factories. It was worth a few $1 million, so a very small business. By the time I became CEO 15 years later, it had grown to 45 manufacturing locations and a market value of about 350. Today, we now have 170 worldwide manufacturing locations and a market cap over $11 billion, employing 21,000 people around the world. As Mark mentioned, we're part of the TSX 60, so we're one of the 60th largest publicly traded companies in Canada. Now, I don't tell this to brag, but to illustrate this change of scope that's happened just over the last 20 years of a company that's been in business for 67. Back to the beginning when I first arrived at CCL. I started in operations, which I loved. Then a stint in sales, followed by a promotion to operations manager. When that went well, I was given a big opportunity to run a non-performing paint-making operation. I initially saw this promotion as an exciting first chance to have bottom-line responsibility. But it didn't take long for me to wonder if the challenge was a big mistake of my young career. When you arrive at a business for the first time, you have a fresh set of eyes. It's invaluable. Trust what you see. Spend time on the factory floor with customers and suppliers to get a good sense of what is exactly happening. A well-run business tends to have a clean, safe environment with engaged employees and happy customers. If not, there is invariably a lot more going on below the surface. This paint company that I was promoted to general manager had problems everywhere. After some analysis and interviews, it was clear new leadership was needed. So unfortunately, I had to let go of the entire senior operating management team, with the exception of one older gentleman who had been sidelined that I sensed knew the business basics and had confidence in the staff on the factory floor. I promoted him to plant manager. The challenges persisted. It was so bad that one day we discovered an employee had thrown a chair in one of the vats of paint. I shut down the plant immediately and brought all 125 employees into the cafeteria. I started by saying that I believed everyone there was trying to make a living and do the best jobs they could. I then recommended that anybody who wasn't part of this group should just leave the building. Almost all of the employees stood up and applauded. It was somewhat of a turning point for me, as the majority was now working toward a common goal. The malcontents were essentially isolated and morale improved. We worked to harness the ingenuity of the team to improve operations and share information freely. I believe that people who have the same information you have will more likely arrive at the same conclusion. The process can be scary, as people tend to hold information for power. So sharing requires trust. As we know, people are the most important component of any organization. As many others have said, the secret is putting the right people in the right positions and then get out of the way. Seems obvious, but is often forgotten. Small businesses are kept small when owners don't trust others and try to do everything themselves. If you can find, motivate, retain, and trust good people who are willing and capable of adapting to changing requirements, then you solve the biggest hurdle of turning around or advancing any business. It's essential to keep innovating as well, adapting new technologies, new market conditions. I believe in a philosophy that if you're coasting, you're probably going downhill. Together, we took the paint factory from the least profitable business at CCL to the most profitable operation. That transformation opened doors for me. I've been given the reins of more facilities, eventually running our largest division out of Chicago for 5 years, before returning to Toronto to become the Chief Operating Officer and then the Chief Executive Officer in 2000. I would add that a global economy that we are in today, international experience is a must and a prerequisite in our business if you want to attain any type of senior operating management role. The opportunity to become CEO in 2000 was presented when the board fired my predecessor. The economy had tanked, somewhat precipitated by the burst of the technology bubble. And a lot of industries were hurting. Our company was not spared. At the time, our banks no longer considered us as strategic and had suggested we look elsewhere. 6 months in the job as CEO, I remember my wife asking me how my day was going. I said, great. She sort of looked at me with surprise. I said it was a rare day. Nothing significantly happened. No major accounts were lost, no suppliers went under, and nobody gave me yet one more piece of advice what I must do to improve the business. At that point, I realized I was being more reactive rather than proactive. I had to take a deep breath and do what I thought was best to move forward with substantial changes. On a side note, I want to say that having belief in yourself is crucial. Once you get through trial by fire, you realize that you have the capability to do it again at the next crisis, and there will be others. There are hard calls to make. Do your homework, listen to key advisors, then trust in your ability to lead. Confidence is infectious, and if you help, it will help your entire team to get on board with the direction despite the challenges at hand. I would also add, a reputation will open doors. Throughout your life, motivating and incentivize those who work for you and for you. Your reputation isn't based on what you say, it's through your day-to-day actions of what you do. Treat everyone with respect. Value their opinions, even when you may disagree. Make well-researched decisions and conduct yourself and your business ethically. Given the state of political leadership in this world, there's been a lot of discussion about ethics. When I was here in class, I vividly remember the professor, Sam Martin, stopping mid-lecture while he spoke passionately about how our careers would be irreparable if we ever used confidential information for our personal gain. Your reputation is everything. It speaks to your character. It's the cornerstone of trust, and both your business and your personal life will fall apart without it. With it, the possibilities are endless. Now back to year 2000 when I became CEO and the challenging to turn around a company. After those 6 months of study analysis, we made some significant and bold changes. We sold off businesses that had less future potential and used this cash flow to pay down debt and get the bank's offer back. We then invested in those businesses that had the potential to grow in leadership positions, but this time on a global basis. One of those businesses that was sold was the founding and largest business unit that had been part of CCL from the beginning. It was a very difficult decision, but the right one. Within the following 2 years of focusing on what we do best globally, the shareholders were happy and the banks were again supporting us. We divested 7 or 8 different packaging businesses that were presented by prior management as strategic, but were clearly underperforming, to one focused business built around a core competency. A core competency that was only 20% of the business when I arrived as CEO. Today is over 90% of our business. What we lost in width, we made up in depth. And the market value grew along with it by a multiple of 38 times. We changed and we thrived. Now virtually all we do is make film, print on film, from polymers used in currency around the world, to adhesive labels and adhesive applications. In short, we focused on what we really do well globally. With 170 factories around the world, no other competitor is close to our scale and our margins. When competing globally, you have to benchmark against the best. To achieve this at CCL, we provided full financial and operational transparency to each general manager around the world so they can benchmark their operations against the best of CCL. We also encourage management and key operators to visit CCL facilities around the world to work collaboratively on projects. The world challenges never seem to diminish. And with experts predicting that 40% of all jobs will be affected in the near future by artificial intelligence, it's a certainty. As I progressed through my career at CCL to now executive chairman of the board, I look back at the scope of the phenomenal change during my years and the many good people I was fortunate enough to work with. Some would say I was lucky, and some of that is always in play. But for the most part, as we know, we make our own luck. I believe the recipe for luck starts with assembling the best team and having supportive and understanding family that helps you. In my case, my incredible wife, Karen, also a University of Western Ontario graduate, and our 4 children, including talented Aaron and Robin, who are here today, and my brother Stuart and his wife, Kim. I want to thank you for your ongoing support and your love. Then, to that rich mixture of foundation, mix in hard work, one eye constantly open for opportunities, a healthy dash of that clear strategy, and enough bravery to leap when necessary. The roasting temperature and the time vary across industries, but the recipe is the same. Most of you are just at the start of your careers. Today is your turn for an exciting transition. As you step out to change your corners of the world, trust in your education you received here at Ivey, and put the ingredients in place to create your own luck. George Bernard Shaw said, "Those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything." In other words, don't get stuck in one way of thinking about the direction of your business or your career. Again, be in that small 4% of humans who take advantage of all the change needed to thrive in a threatening environment. Embrace today with pride for what you have accomplished, the optimism for the future, a future that you have the awesome power to change and make a world a better place. Thank you and Godspeed.